Anyway, I hope you're well this evening. Did you know that it is actually World Menopause Day? I was trying to get... It's World what? World Menopause Day today. Oh dear. That's not a good sign. I can't even remember what day it is. Anyway, we're speaking to various experts this month because it is national for the UK, National Menopause Awareness Week. And you're probably fed up of the word, but it's got to be talked about. It's got to be brought out there. So many people on the planet go through this for a lengthy period of time. Yeah, this isn't just something that glances off you. No, it's a whole life change and it can span a decade, or anything up to a decade. So now we're going to speak to a bit of an expert on menopause, Jane McPherson, about World Menopause Day and about what we can do to help ourselves as women. She has been involved in writing the acclaimed self-help title, You Part 2. That's the title of the book, You Part 2, Thriving in the Second Half of Your Life. Now, she co-wrote this with her husband, Campbell McPherson, and the book is doing exceptionally well. We'll talk to Jane about that. She's actually based in Cheltenham in the Cotswolds and teaches yoga all over the world as well as online. And she knows a lot about the menopause being such a profound time for women. And of course is hugely pleased to have a platform to talk about it, which I think we're all celebrating. So I spoke to Jane actually about an hour ago, just before the show, and I said, welcome along. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, Kate. Thank you very much.
Now, I know that you wrote a book with your husband because I chatted to him about it, about how the second halves of our lives can be the best halves of our lives.
That's right.
How's the book going?
The book is going really well, thank you. We've had a lot of interest and you know, it's both from different ages actually, which has been interesting. Not only people in their second half of their life, but also from different age groups as well. I think there's a lot of interest in you know, the fact that we're all living longer and we want to live well, and so it's going well, thank you.
I like the forget the cardigan and slippers and buy this book instead. So it's You Part 2, Thriving in the Second Half of Your Life. And obviously, I think it was your husband's idea and then you put the female perspective in.
I did, yes, I did. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just from a sort of middle-aged man's point of view. I felt very strongly that women, we go through an enormous amount of change, both obviously in the workplace, but obviously physically. And as a yoga therapist and a yoga teacher, I've seen a lot of women who have frankly struggled with this time in their lives with the changes that are happening them hormonally and how it's making them feel physically and emotionally. And I felt really strongly that we needed to have a female perspective on how to navigate through the changes that are happening to us in the latter half, you know, in the second half of our lives. So yes. Well, I insisted.
I think we were all very pleased about that. And your husband was as well, which I think hats off to him for that.
Yes, absolutely. It's been wonderful.
Yeah. And how appropriate that we're talking about it on the World Menopause Day. I mean, it's a big day.
It is. And, you know, Kate, what I'm so pleased about is that we're having these conversations now. And that we are discussing this. I've done a few interviews actually on this today, but just among our friends and my students, you know, the conversation about menopause, it's not the taboo subject that I think it certainly was, certainly in my mother's generation. Having said that, I think we've still got a little bit of a way to go. There's been a recent survey, 75% of women felt that it was still something of a taboo subject. You know, quite a lot of them, I think it's 63%, are saying that their working life has been negatively affected, and you know, 36% said that it made them feel invisible. So I think we've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of discussions to have, but we're there. At least we're talking about it now.
It's brilliant to have the conversation. Do you have any advice for women? I mean, that's the great thing about days like this. It brings the chat out. And then, because, I mean, I'm of a certain age and I'm learning now, and I almost feel like I should have known this ages ago.
Yeah. I think learning is important. Knowledge is really powerful. If we can learn as much as possible about what we're going through and understanding that it is absolutely perfectly normal, and that what we're feeling and these weird sort of brain fog, or we're feeling more anxious, or we're finding us a few more aches and pains, we might be having these hot flushes, we might be having bouts of sadness and melancholy. These are all very normal as a result of the hormonal changes that we're going through. I think if we know that, then it doesn't seem so scary. And certainly, if we then, once we're armed with that knowledge, then we can start to do something about it. So I think it's really important. The biggest tip I can have is read, learn, discuss with everybody that you know about what
Yeah.
they're experiencing, so that you are then armed with information, and then you can, if you need to, get some support, whether it be from your GP or from another support group. And there's plenty of there's plenty of support out there now, which is fantastic. Get the support, because there's half the population are going through this over the age of about
Yes.
45. There's a lot of us doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's such a huge chunk of society, and it's not over in a day. There's a period of time,
No,
there's years that we can potentially live like this.
it
So it's a
certainly
huge
can be.
section of society.
It is, and I think that the more knowledge there is out there, the more we discuss it, the more information we have, the more questioning we have as well about what is right for us and what isn't right for us, and that is enormously liberating and empowering. And then once we have that knowledge, we can then go, okay, I'm a little bit more in control of this now. Because I think certainly a lot of my clients who I see have felt they're out of control. Why is this happening to me? Why am I feeling like this? I feel so tired. I feel so miserable. I feel like I want to kill someone. These are some of the things I've had over the years.
Oh, oh,
Yeah. And yes, and it's normal, and it's because of these pesky hormones, that are changing in us, like our teenagers. Teenagers go
yeah.
through an enormous amount of hormonal changes, and we give them quite a lot of space, don't we?
Do you know
So
what? We absolutely do, and they don't know any better. Somebody
exactly,
said to me, "God, this menopause is like being 14 again," and I
yeah.
just thought, if only, because at least you've got youth on your side then. But as you are such a good champion of, the second half of our lives, it need be no different or worse or necessarily slower than the first half. The wisdom that we have and the experiences and the calmness that brings is something to be cherished and used and celebrated.
Absolutely, and it can be, as we say in the book, it can be an enormously liberating time. It is that huge time of change. But if we can place ourselves in the driver's seat, as we say, and actually a bit more in control, we can change our situation. We've got an opportunity maybe to actually use that wisdom and experience, and maybe the children have left home, or maybe that we have a little bit more freedom to actually follow what we want to do in our hearts, our careers, and I think that's enormously exciting as well.
Yeah.
I also understand that it can be a very, very challenging time in a woman's life, and that there needs to be support and compassion and really a recognition that this is a huge change in our lives, and let's embrace it. Let's accept it, and then we can then move forward on how we're going to move into this exciting time.
Do you know what? I've never done yoga. And I know you're a huge expert and a big teacher. You teach all over the world, don't you, with your yoga?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I'm extraordinarily fortunate. Yes.
Yes. Well, it's funny because so many people say, oh, once you try yoga, it'll change your life. It's going to be wonderful. I'm almost kind of glad I've saved it to now so that
Yes.
I can
Yes.
now discover it at a time when I really need it, potentially.
Yes. Yes, and I think I spend quite a lot of time telling people what yoga isn't. And what yoga
Yes.
isn't is tying yourself up looking like a pretzel in the latest, fantastic yoga gear. That is not what it's about. And as an older woman, I feel quite passionately about this, and I've taught yoga for many, many years. Yoga is about bringing you into the present moment and helping you be calm and grounded through movement, through breathing, through some meditation. And this is why it's very much an important part of how to deal with change going on with our lives, not only menopause, any change. Because if you face change, if you embrace change from a very calm perspective, then you're in a much better position to be in control of how you feel. You're less reactive. And this is what I spend a lot of time. So I get lots of women saying, okay, in the middle of the night, I'm having this hot flush. I'm not going to get up and do a yoga class. I'm like, well, no, you shouldn't get up and do a yoga class. But what you can do is really, you can just accept where you are. You can do some gentle breathing. You can feel your heart beating. You can go, okay, I'm resting here. I'm accepting that I'm awake.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter. But there are lots of tools that yoga gives you to actually bring you to a calm place, rather than worrying about that vortex of anxiety that we tend to get right in the middle of the night when we don't sleep. So please try yoga, Kate.
Yes, I'm going to try one of your online classes. I think that's probably what I'll do.
Oh, well, please, they're all free. I have a huge video library that I've just put loads and loads of workshops, whether you've got issues physically or mentally, restorative yoga, dynamic yoga. So just, have a look. Have a look. There's something. Hopefully you'll find something. And if there isn't, let me know and I'll point you in the right direction.
Jane McPherson, and her website, if you fancy a go, is janemcphersonyoga.co.uk. Absolutely brilliant to pick her brains about all things menopause on this World Menopause Day. She's a bit of an expert in it, and she's studied it and helped lots of women as well through all sorts of things, yoga included, and of course her book, which she wrote with her husband, all about celebrating, well, middle to old age. The book is called You Part 2, Thriving in the Second Half of Your Life. I just love that title, love the whole concept about it. Probably because I'm at the point where I kind of need that. Anyway, brilliant to speak to Jane herself. And I'll let you know how I get on with those yoga classes. We'll see.